So greetings of the day and welcome to the session all of you. So in the previous session we had a very quick introduction to core competency theory. Now let us start with the content given here. Write a short notes on core competencies. As I have already told you, C.K. Prahalad and Gary Hamel have introduced the concept of core competencies. Okay. So, what is a core competence? A core competence is a unique strength. It is a unique strength of an organization which may not be shared by others. That means you have to develop a particular strength in any area. A particular strength in the area of marketing, in the area of production, in the area of finance, in the area of logistics. So, some unique strength which you can do well, and sometimes this unique strength may be a combination of different things. That means this unique strength need not be singular in nature. It can be a combination of marketing, production, finance. So by taking all these things, by combining all these things, you can develop a core competence. So a core competence is a unique strength of an organization which may not be shared by others. This is the most important thing, which may not be shared by others. See, if others can easily share it, okay, if others can easily do it, then you don't have any prominence, you don't have any edge, you don't have any advantage. See, why we are developing these core competencies? We are developing these core competencies for the sake of getting competitive advantage in the market. So, if your particular strength is shared by your competitors or rivals, then it is no more your unique, special, specific strength. So what we are talking about here is, we are talking about a unique strength which you only should possess, which it should become difficult for others to imitate it, to copy it. Then only you can use that strength to win over your rivals and competitors. See, that is the greatness of the theory proposed by C.K. Prahalad and Gary Hamel. Unique strength that is only special to you, where others should not have that strength. So, you should focus in such a way and you should develop it. Okay. Next, core competencies are those capabilities that serve as a source of competitive advantage for a firm. That is what I am explaining you. Core competencies are those capabilities that serve as a source of competitive advantage. Okay, that means our ultimate target or our ultimate motto is to get the competitive advantage. And how can you get it? That is the question here. There are several ways, there are several approaches of getting the competitive advantage, and core competence is one of the sources of getting competitive advantage in the market. So each and every businessman has to focus on developing core competencies. See, in strategic management, we will have a new approach of competition. In strategic management, there will be no rat race where several rats go one after another and they don't know where they are heading towards and where they are going. But in strategic management, we don't try to do the same thing. Here we try to build up a clarity and we try to develop our own capabilities, and to the maximum extent possible we will try to eliminate the competition. Rather than competing, we are focusing on the ways of eliminating the competition. See, this is one way. Core competence, developing core competencies is one way of eliminating the competition. Okay. So, a core competence is defined as a combination of several skills and techniques rather than individual skill or a separate technique. See, techniques don't last forever. A technique's value will be of shorter duration. Now, we want such competence which can give us sustainable competitive advantage. A competitive advantage for a long time. That is what is required to us. So, rather than an individual skill or technique, it is a combination of several skills. That is what I told. You have to make your own path in such a way that it should be non-imitable, okay, that it should be unique, that you only should have that. That means you have to develop all the required strengths. You have to develop all the required strengths. Financial strength, human resource strength, marketing strength, distribution strength, logistics strength, supply chain management strength. So you have to focus on all the different resources and you have to develop your own capability, your own method, your own approach, your own unique approach to eliminate the competition. Okay. And if you certainly focus on core competencies, you can definitely eliminate the competition. Okay. And it is created by superior integration of technological, physical and human resources. That is what I am telling you. Here, the integration of technological, physical and natural resources. But there, the word used is not simple integration, it is superior integration. This is the word, superior integration. Means you have to integrate, means join together. Integrate means join together. So you have to join together all of your strengths, your human resource strength, your financial strength, your marketing strength, whatever strengths you have. See, the most important thing is the SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So, you have to know your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, and you have to make a superior integration of all these strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, and you should try to build up your own capability with superior integration. Means the best integration. That should be the best combination, the best formula, which should become a nightmare to your competitors to develop. It should become a nightmare to your competitors. Okay. That means they should work very hard and it should take a lot of time for your competitors to develop that kind of capability. So you have to focus on developing that kind of capability, which becomes very tough to your competitors. That happens through superior integration. That means now you think why strategic management is a costly affair and why strategic management is not done in an easy way. Because in order to compete in the business in the long run, you have to do all these things. Without doing all these things, you cannot move forward. Okay. So that is very important. And they represent distinctive skills as well as intangible, invisible, intellectual assets and cultural capabilities. See, how can you get the core competence? Sometimes core competence need not be visible physically. Core competence may be in the form of intangible things, invisible things, intellectual assets. That means the culture of your organization, your operating systems inside your organization, your culture, your values, your beliefs, how you treat your employees. Okay, these all can become core competence. See, in companies like Microsoft, Google, okay, culture is their core competence. They compete on culture. They have such a kind of very good culture in their organization so that the employees work in a more creative manner and they help in making the company to create innovative, genuine and more creative products into the market. See, it is finally the employees who should be very creative and innovative. And when can employees be creative and innovative? If you treat them properly, there should be no discriminatory practices in your organization. There should not be any problems in your organization. A good work climate, work atmosphere should be there. Conducive, cordial, happy work atmosphere should be there. Then employees will put their heart and mind together and they work. Okay. See, Swami Vivekananda says, in order to get success, we need three things. We need 3H. He says 3H principle. He says that we need to have a head to think, heart to feel, and hand to work. Okay, head, heart and hand. But the biggest problem in most of the organizations is they don't feel that it is their organization. There will be no synchronization between the objectives of the organization and the objectives of the employee. They don't feel that doing something great is important for the organization. So that's why whenever they don't feel, they don't think and they don't work. So if your organization is having a very good culture of encouraging employees, giving them freedom to think, giving them a chance to innovate, then that culture will definitely be helpful to you to make a core competence. So, core competence need not be always physical. It can be invisible, intangible, intellectual and cultural capabilities. Okay. Next, say for example, you take the case of Nokia. Nokia has sold its handset business to Microsoft, but Nokia company is having lot of intellectual assets. See, Microsoft did not purchase entire Nokia. It purchased only the handset manufacturing division. Whereas Nokia is having lot of intellectual assets. That is the core competence of Nokia. And even Nokia is getting lot of returns, lot of revenues from its intangible assets like patents, innovations, these all things. So, a core competence can be like that. For example, you take the case of IBM, International Business Machines. IBM company is having lot of core competence because it has got lot of patents, research papers submitted, lot of intellectual capital it is having. So, it is very tough for any other IT company to compete with IBM in that innovation, in that intellectual capacity. So, that is what you need to understand. And in order to qualify as a core competence, the competency should differentiate the business from any other similar businesses. See, this is the most important point. In order to qualify as a core competence, the competence should differentiate the business from any other small businesses. From any other similar businesses. That is what we are telling. See, you have some capability. You are doing it good. But the question here is, can you consider it to be a core competence? No. The answer is no. Now, when can you consider your capability as a core capability or a core competence? There are some criteria for that. Okay. What is the main important criteria? Your core competence should keep you in a special position. Your competencies should give you a special rank, which other similar businesses cannot have. That is the most important thing. And a core competence fulfills three criteria. These are very important. Because several times we get a doubt, sir, I also have some capabilities, I can do something well. So now can I consider those capabilities or those skills as core competencies? Now if you have that question in your mind, the answer is, it should provide potential access to a wide variety of markets. This is the first criteria. That means a core competence should provide potential access to a wide variety of markets. That means you have a skill, you have a capability. Now you should think that whether this capability is helpful to you to access many markets, to enter into many markets. That means using this capability, can you capture many markets? Can you enter into international markets and perform your business well? Will this capability be helpful to you or not? Okay, that is the thing you need to understand. And it should make a significant contribution to the perceived customer benefits of the end product. This is very important. Many companies fail here. Many companies feel that they have lot of skills, lot of capabilities, and they unnecessarily feel that we are having lot of capabilities and our products are very qualitative in nature. Okay, our products are having lot of quality in them, but still customers are not buying our products, and they feel that it is the problem with the customers. And that situation also came in India once upon a time. And at that time, C.K. Prahalad proposed a theory called bottom of the pyramid theory, where he told companies like Godrej, Unilever, etc., that you concentrate on the bottom of the pyramid. Because, see, the Indian scenario will be like this. There will be lot of poor people at the bottom of the pyramid. And compared to them, middle class people are less in number. Poor people are more in number. And rich people are very less in number. This is the Indian scenario. This is the Indian context. Now you have a bigger market here, because the size is very big. Now, in order to target this particular segment, what you should do? If you offer them costly products, they cannot buy them. If you offer a shampoo bottle, that shampoo bottle cannot be purchased by this category of people, this poor people. Now, if you offer them in a 1 rupee sachet, then people are ready to buy it. That is what C.K. Prahalad told with his theory to the companies. And companies bought and companies introduced the products in smaller forms, in sachet forms, and their sales have dramatically grown. So that is what you need to understand. See, your capability is not important. What is important is whether your capability is going to give customer benefits or not. Whether the customer is getting benefited by your capability or not. That is very important. Whatever capability you have does not matter. What matters is, will your capability be recognized, recognition by the customer? That is the important thing. Will the customer recognize it? Customer recognize it means what? Customer should buy your product by looking the speciality in your product. So then only you can think of your capability as a core competence. And it should be difficult to imitate for competitors or rivals. This is what we are always telling. Whatever capability you have, it should become a nightmare. It should become a tough thing for others to copy or imitate. So these are the 3 important criteria. What is that? It should provide potential access to a wide variety of markets. It should make a significant contribution to the perceived customer benefits of the end product. It should be difficult to imitate for competitors or rivals. So, if your competence is having these 3 things, then you can think of your competence as a core competence, your capability as a core capability. Okay. Next, core competencies are often visible in the form of organizational functions. Here we are giving a clue. How we can know our core competencies? See, you have to use your core competencies in your organizational functions. That is, in your marketing, in your distribution, in your production, you have to use these core competencies. For that, we have given an example. Marketing and sales is a core competence of Hindustan Unilever Limited. Yes, I told you, Unilever Limited has got a strong presence in the market, a strong distribution capacity in the market. Okay, they can touch the nook and corner of the country, so that whatever product they launch, it becomes, they make the product easily accessible to the people, so that people can buy it. That is their core competence. Likewise, a core competency of a firm is whatever it does best. That means you should do something best so that it becomes tough for others to do it. Like Walmart. For example, Walmart focuses on lowering its operating costs. The cost advantage that Walmart has created for it has allowed the retailer to price goods lower than most of the competitors. See, what is the tagline of Walmart? Save money, live better. Okay. So, that means it wants to save the money of the people by offering them products at low prices. But the question is, how can you provide the products at low prices? Yes, you can certainly do it. You can do it with the help of your organizational functions. I have told you in the previous session that Walmart is very excellent in doing logistics management and supply chain management. Okay, and these all examples already we have seen in the previous session. So this is about core competence. Okay, now let us see the similar questions for this core competence. Okay, value for money is a leading retail chain on account of its ability to operate its business at low costs. The retail chain aims to further strengthen its top position in the retail industry. Marshall, the CEO of the retail chain, is of the view that to achieve the goals they should focus on lowering the costs of procurement of products. Highlight and explain the core competency of value for money retail chain. Now, in this way the questions are asked. Don't expect that a question like write about core competence will be asked. Don't expect that type of things in strategic management. This type of questions, application oriented questions are asked. Okay. Now, if the question is asked like this, how should you write? First, write the meaning in the above answer, and then meaning means already we have given here these 7 points or at least 5 points you write, and the most important thing in this context based questions or case based questions or scenario based questions or application oriented questions, whatever name you give it. Okay, the main thing is to connect your answer to the context given in the question. That is very important. Okay, so now you write after writing the meaning of the core competence, but what is asked in the question? About a company it is asked. The name of the company is value for money. So regarding that you have to write something. So value for money is the leader on account of its ability to keep costs low. This you need not write on your own. That is there already in the question. The cost advantage that value for money has created for itself has allowed the retailer to price goods at lower than competitors. This is also given in the question. The core competency in this case is derived from the company's ability to generate large sales volume, allowing the company to remain profitable with low profit margin. So this line you have to write on your own. And if you read the concept, if you read the question, you can easily write that concluding remark. That is not a big take. Okay, right. And here one more question is asked. Telecom industry is growing at a rapid speed in India. There is a cutthroat competition among the service providers in the industry. Identify the capabilities that will best serve as a source of competitive advantage for a firm over its rivals. See, if you read this question, you may not think that this question is related to core competence, but it definitely is related to core competence. You have to write the meaning of core competence, because what is the thing asked here? A source of competitive advantage. Already we have given here core competencies or the capabilities that serve as a source of competitive advantage. So you have to write that answer. Okay. So please be careful while preparing the subject. Rather than focusing on the simple questions, you have to focus on the application oriented and similar questions. That is why to the extent possible, we have given similar questions for every question. Okay, right. Now we are going to another important concept, a very intelligent, well-made concept called value chain analysis, given by Michael Porter. Okay, this is again a very important question. Now, what do you mean by value chain analysis? What we call as VCA, value chain analysis. This theory, this model is given by Michael Porter. Okay, and this is one way of getting the competitive advantage, or you can put it in another way. These three things are related concepts: value chain analysis, competitive advantage, and core competence. You can use your core competence to create value to the customers so that you get the competitive advantage. Let me tell you one more time. You can use your core competencies to perform your value chain activities to create value to the customers and gain competitive advantage. See, all the three concepts came. This is the actual application of these three concepts. First, core competencies. And those core competencies you have to use in your value chain. So that value is created. Because what is the ultimate thing? The ultimate thing is value creation. You should focus on value creation. That is the ultimate thing. Isn't it? So, a value can be created by your processes, by your activities. Okay. So, when you create value to the customer, automatically what happens? Competitive advantage is created. That means all our efforts, all our endeavors, all our trials is towards achieving the competitive advantage. That is the most important thing you need to understand. Okay. Next. Now, what is the concept of this value chain analysis? All of you know that value creation is the most important thing. Value creation to the customer is the most important thing to get the competitive advantage. Now, Michael Porter very intelligently proposed a theory called value chain analysis. If you go through that theory, you can understand the intelligence of Michael Porter, the greatness of Michael Porter. Now, what Michael Porter says is, we do lot of things in our business, isn't it? We do lot of things. We have lot of resources. We have financial resources, human resources, tangible resources, intangible resources, machinery, technology. We have lot of things. And all these things are used to satisfy the customer. But what Michael Porter says is, you should not think that these resources are just a random collection. These resources should not be thought of as random collection. What do you mean by random collection? Just you have certain resources and you are using those resources. So you should not think like that. Okay. But in what way you have to think? It is chain. Chain means you have to link them properly. That means in order to create value to the customer, several activities are to be done in a systematic manner, not in a random manner. What do you mean by random manner? Finance department is doing its functions perfectly and it is not bothering about other departments. And marketing department is doing its functions properly and it is not bothering about what the production department do. And production department perform its activities perfectly. That means everyone is doing their activities perfectly. Okay, everyone is doing their activities perfectly, but there is no link among them. There is no integration among them. There is no clarity among them. Okay, see, for example, if you want to understand strategic management, you have to take the help of economics at some places. Take the help of financial management at some places. Take the help of mathematics at some places. Take the help of statistics at some places. That means, in order to understand one subject better, you have to collect all the subjects together. Then you can understand a particular thing in a better way. If you forget what you read in economics and in strategic management, a sentence like large scale economies are required to gain more experience. So this kind of sentence is there. Now, where did you study these large scale economies? In economics. Now, you have to link that economics concept here. That linking is very important. The opposite of random collection is linking. You have to link the subjects. Once you link this subject, subjects, then you can understand the concepts very clearly. That is, a particular concept is linked with many other concepts. But what we are doing, we are learning the concepts individually. We learned something in economics and when we forgot it and started learning things in strategic management. And whenever a word like large scale economies came, we are not linking it to the concept of economics. Then you cannot understand this concept clearly. So, what is important is linking. That is very important. Chaining, linking, that is very, very important. It should not be a random study. Okay. Or it should not be a disconnected or unconnected study. So, the same logic is applied in value chain analysis also. See, what is our target? What is our target? Our target is, in business, what is our objective or what is our target? Our target or objective is to create value to the customer. This is the most important thing, to create value to the customer. Now the question comes, how can we create value to the customer? We have resources. We have resources, financial, technological, okay, production, human resources. We have all of them. But the problem is the linking. Linking is the problem. That means you should link all these resources in such a way that it creates value to the customer. So, value creation to the customer is not an easy thing. For that you have to think properly. So, now what Michael Porter did, he has divided all the activities that you perform in your organization for the purpose of value creation into two types, into two divisions, into two categories. And he named them as primary activities and secondary activities. Here lies the intelligence of Michael Porter. Here you can find his clarity in thinking. Now Michael Porter has an objective in mind. What is his objective? How to create value to the customer. So in order to create value to the customer, what should be done? A proper linking of all your organizational capabilities. All your organizational functions has to be done. Now for that what he did, he has divided all the activities that are performed by an organization. See what activities we perform? Inbound logistics, outbound logistics, marketing, sales, distribution, procurement, research, finance, infrastructure. These all things will be there in every business. But presence is not important. See, you know all the subjects. You studied economics, you studied statistics, you studied mathematics, you studied English, you studied physics. But that is not important. What is important is, in order to get or in order to gain understanding of a particular concept, are you linking this particular concept with other things or not? That is very important. So likewise, Michael Porter also made the theory in such a way that whatever value you want to create to the customer, it has to be created by the superior integration of all your functions. All your functions should be joined, linked, chained. That is value chain analysis. Okay. So, he has divided all the activities into two, primary activities and secondary activities. Now, what do you mean by primary activities? Whatever activities you perform to create value to the customer, or whatever activities you perform directly to serve the customer, they are called as primary activities. And whatever activities that will be helpful for the primary activities to perform better, they are called as secondary activities. So rather than telling like this, let me show you the diagram here, you will understand. See here, we use a fishbone diagram. a fishbone diagram, okay, to explain the concept of value chain analysis. Now, what is the speciality of this fishbone diagram? It is also called as Ishikawa diagram, made by a management consultant of Japan. Okay, so the speciality of this diagram is all the effects are given at the base, effects, and all the causes are given at the top. That means this fishbone diagram or Ishikawa diagram is very much helpful to tell or to present the causes and effects. That means, let me tell you very clearly. If you want to create value to the customer, our objective is that thing only, creation of value to the customer. Now, if you want to create value to the customer, you have to perform the function of inbound logistics, your operations, your outbound logistics, your marketing and sales, and your after sales service or service should be done in a perfect manner. These are the most important activities, very, very important activities. What are the meanings I will tell you later, but now I am just telling the names. So these 5 activities, what are they? Inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and services. So these all activities, they have to be done in a perfect manner to create value to the customer. Now the question comes. See, here lies the intelligence of Michael Porter. Now the question comes. How can I do these 5 activities in a perfect manner? You cannot do them casually, no? You cannot do them on their own. For example, my marketing and sales has to be done perfectly. That means I should have a very good, talented, capable team of marketing experts in my company and sales people in my company. Sales people who are very polite, who are very responsive, who are very empathetic. That kind of sales people I should have. Okay. So, in order to get that kind of marketing and sales people, what is required? When can you get a very polite, responsive sales people? Who will recruit them? It is human resource department, isn't it? It is HR people who will recruit the people. That means, first of all, your HR policies, your HR strategy should be very good. Then only you can recruit competent marketing and sales people. So that's why you see human resource management is written here. Now you should understand clearly. See, this is the effect. Marketing and sales is the effect. You have to perform marketing and sales in a perfect manner. So, for every effect there should be a cause, no? Now what I am telling, marketing and sales people should be good. Then the capability of the marketing and sales people depends on your HR practices. Now HR becomes the cause and good marketing and sales team becomes the effect. Let me tell you one more thing. You have to do your operations perfectly. Operations means you want to have everything on time. The right thing at the right place, at the right price, to the right person. Everything you should provide. Then only you can perform things properly. So that is operations. Now, you please tell me, when can you perform your operations perfectly? In order to perform the operations perfectly, you need to have a firm infrastructure and you need to have technology. Now again you should understand. What? These are all the effects. These are all the most important things. What? Inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, service. These are all the important things to create value to the customer. That is point number 1. But the thing is, how can you perform all these functions in a perfect manner? That is a question. That means, in order to do all these things in an excellent manner, some other things are required. So they are called as support activities. These support activities provide the required support to perform these primary activities. Primary means most important, basic. But primary activities cannot be done by themselves efficiently. You require the support of several other factors, and all those factors are given in support activities. That is why, how can we show all these things? That is the reason a fishbone diagram is used. So in this fishbone diagram, all the effects are shown at the bottom and the causes are shown at the top. So for inbound logistics to perform better, infrastructure, human resources, technology, procurement are required. Likewise, for doing your operations better, firm infrastructure, technology is required. For outbound logistics, again technology, firm infrastructure is required. For marketing and sales, human resources management is required. For services, human resource management and technology are required. So this is the concept of value chain analysis. And now you can ask me, sir, you told core competencies are used in this value chain analysis. How? In order to perform all these things, you require a special knack, a knack, K-N-A-C-K, knack. You require that knack of doing it in a perfect, fantastic manner. Okay? So that is the concept of value chain analysis. See, this is, whether you feel it or not, but this is definitely an intelligent theory proposed by Michael Porter to create value to the customer. See, companies have to think this much. Okay. Business is not a simple activity. It is not a simple trading activity of purchasing and selling. Those days are gone. Today there is a lot of competition in the market where the global markets are open. You have a lot of global and foreign competition in addition to local competition. And on another side, customers are becoming more demanding about technology, more demanding about the quality of the products, and lot of restrictions from the governments, and lot of competition, lot of pressures. So in this type of pressures, if you don't think with a lot of clarity and design your product or service in such a way it creates value to the end customer, you cannot carry out your business. Business is not such a simple activity or a simple act of just purchasing and selling. I'll go to a wholesale shop and I'll purchase the things and keep in my shop so that whoever wants will come and buy in my shop. Those days are over. Now you have to, especially the companies which want to grab the market and gain the competitive advantage, should go through all these things. It's very important. Okay. Now let's try to learn value chain analysis. Define the term value chain analysis. Value chain analysis is a means of describing the activities within and around an organization. See, within and around an organization. In order to create value to the customer within your organization, that means inside of your organization, you have to do certain activities, and also around your organization. You have to look out what is happening around your organization, and also you have to do those external activities also, and relating them to an assessment of the competitive strength of an organization, or in other words, its ability to provide value for money, products or services. That is the ultimate goal. Value proposition is the ultimate goal. Customer is spending 10 rupees on your product. Now you please tell me how much value you give to the customer. Sir, I give 6 rupees value to the customer and take 10 rupees from him. Do you think the customers are foolish people? And if you do like that, what happens? You dig your own grave. See, for example, you take 10 rupees from the customer and giving them only 6 rupees, you are digging your own grave. Yes, because tomorrow another person comes and he offers 7 rupees value and take 10 rupees from the customer. Now you have a competitor. And another person comes and take 8 and give 8 rupees value and take 10 rupees. Now another competitor came. And another fellow comes and offers it at 9 rupees. So you need to always work with normal profit margins and try to give more value to the customer. then only you can have a sustainable competitive advantage. The most important word here is sustainable. Okay. So, our ultimate thing is we should have a competitive strength in our organization. Sir, how can I get that competitive strength? You have to think and you have to integrate all your resources. You should not keep them random. See, you know economics, you know maths, you know statistics, you know accounts. But whenever you are studying something in strategic management, if you are not connecting all of them, then you cannot understand this particular concept clearly. Okay, so that is what you need to understand. So, in order to create value for money, products or services, you need to have certain capabilities. And that capability you can get through linking of all these things. That is value chain analysis. VCA involves two basic steps. Identify the separate activities and assessing the value added from each one of them. How fantastically it was said. Fantastic it was. See, identify the separate activities. Identify the separate activities means what? See, inbound logistics is one activity that creates value to the customer. Operations is another activity. Outbound logistics is another activity. Marketing and sales another activity. Service another activity. These are all different activities. First, identify what activities are required to create value to the customer. Okay, you finished that. Now the second thing is most important. Assessing the value added from each one of them. Yeah, that is beautifully said. See, for example, your inbound logistics is good, excellent. Operations are good, excellent. Outbound logistics is also good, excellent. Service is also good, excellent. But your marketing and sales people are very impolite, rude, non-responsive, non-empathetic. Now what happens? You will lose the market. You are doing 4 things excellent. But the 5th thing. So, from that what happens? See, this is our general experience in the market also. For example, there will be a shop. In that shop, all the qualitative goods, all the quality goods are sold. But that shopkeeper or the vendor over there is very harsh towards the employees. Very impolite, rude, rash. Now, what people talk about that shop? People will talk in such a way that we get quality goods at best prices there. But that fellow at the counter, he is so rash and rude. That's why by looking at his face, I don't want to go to that shop. In that way, people will think, no? And ultimately what happens? Even though that shopkeeper stocks quality goods and offers at low prices, because of his harsh attitude, he loses the market. He loses his sales, isn't it? And likewise, every important factor contributes its own thing to create value to the customer. So now you have to identify. For example, if my inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics and services are good, but if my marketing and sales is not good, how much I will lose? That you need to understand. Okay. So that is very, very important. Yeah, next. One of the key aspects of value chain analysis is the recognition that organizations are much more than a random collection of machines, money and people. Yeah. Machines are doing their work. People are doing their work. Okay. Money, you are spending money. But there is no link, there is no understanding, there is no objective. You are just doing the work randomly. Okay. What you are thinking? You are still thinking in the old way. What is the old way? If I give quality, customer will come to me. No. Those days are gone. Today, in addition to quality, lot of things are required. See, you sell quality products and you throw away the products in the face of the customer. Do you think the customer will buy them? Absolutely no. Okay. Right. These resources are of no value if they cannot help to produce goods and services which create value to the final customer. This is a golden point. This is a golden point. What is it? These resources are of no value. How many of machines you have, how many of people you have, how much of money you have, how many factories you have, how many vehicles you have, what type of quality you give, these are of no value. When? If they cannot help to produce goods and services which create value to the final customer, that is very important. Creation of value to the final customer. You may have lot of things. You may have lot of infrastructure. You may have lot of capabilities. But so what? The customer will ask only one question. So what? You may be a very big company. You may offer at low prices. But customer is not perceiving value in your product. Today, the marketing is customer oriented. Today the business is customer oriented. If customer don't find value in your product, what is the reason for the customer to purchase your product? Why can't customer go to your competitor? Why he should only purchase your product? What is the reason? There is no reason. So what you should do? You should create value to the customer. How can you do that? You can do that by having a clarity regarding the operations, regarding the mechanism of connecting the primary activities and the support activities. At first you need to have a clarity. So that clarity is already given in value chain framework. So this value chain is again a very important concept in providing what? Competitive advantage to the organization. Okay. And how are business activities classified for value chain purposes? That means in order to make the value chain activities properly, what things you have to do? I have already told you, Michael Porter classified business activities into primary or line activities and support activities. What are primary activities? The primary activities are the activities which keep you in touch with the final customer. Those are primary activities. These primary activities deal directly with the customer. They are very much helpful to achieve the customer satisfaction. Those are primary activities or line activities. And in order to perform these primary activities or line activities in a perfect manner, you require some support activities. And the most important thing is trying to link these primary and support activities. That is the most important concept. And what are the primary activities? Inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and services. These activities deal directly with the end customer. And what are support activities? Procurement, technology development, human resource management, infrastructure. These are support activities. So, a perfect combination, a perfect blend of all these primary activities and support activities put together, they form a perfect value chain. That will give you the margin, the perfect profit margins. That is why no other diagram is suited to depict this particular value chain analysis except the fishbone diagram. Okay, because I have already told you, fishbone diagram clearly depicts the relationship between causes and effects. What are the causes and what are the effects? Okay, so again you should understand what is the importance of this value chain analysis. Because to get the competitive advantage, your value chains should be perfect. And core competencies also comes here. You have to do this value chain activity in a very unique manner. There you should show your core competence. You should do all these activities in a unique manner, and you have to do those activities. Okay, so that is very, very important. And we will go through this 16th question in the next session. Thank you.